All right, here we go. All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, my co-host, Nick and Dan. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Nick is back finally for the West Ham match review, seated firmly in his seat back stateside. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Great to see everyone that I saw over there for a little bit. And despite some terrible sporting results, it was fantastic to be back across. We'll hopefully get back over as a group next spring and get to do a proper trip, and hopefully the vibes are a little bit better when we get to do that. But it was cool to be there on signing day, or on transfer deadline day, I should say. Signing day is an American thing, and get a kind of experience what was a crazy last 24 hours of the window. I mean, it went all sorts of different directions, and I was with Ollie Glanville on Monday, and the story that we talked about then changed about 180 degrees by Thursday. So pretty wild.
The real question is, what was worse between the two? Watching your college football team lose or watching Chelsea lose?
Oh, that Southampton performance was way worse. Way worse. I mean, I expect Nebraska to shit the bed. I have way more expectations for Chelsea Football Club than what I saw that night. I mean, I know I got memed, but I mean, that was absolutely pathetic. And I'm glad they showed a little bit of fight. We're going to talk about that today, but I was as deflated as I've ever been coming out of a game after that.
I mean, if it wasn't you, it was one of the other 3,000 to 5,000 other away fans. So it looked like your tone was matching everyone else around there. But yeah, look, this is the West Ham match review, which I'm sure you know by now. So for this one, we're going to be waxing poetic about the return of one Benjamin James Chilwell, while lamenting how much we needed all of that magic to get the result over West Ham. We're going to apparently give me the opportunity to lay out a defense of Edouard Mendy amidst calls for the keeper to be benched, which are funny. But we'll also talk about the disjointedness of the team, which is leading to a lot of issues at large. And then we'll talk about the double standards of the PGMOL, VAR, the inconsistencies that are just ridiculous, and what the entire league is supposed to do. Because this weekend, everybody hated the referees. So we'll get into all of that. But before we do, we're going to have a lot on this one. The 3-word match reviews. Dan, try to keep it relatively calm. This one's going to get spicy.
Oh, look, Jay coming in with Ben Chilwell, King. That's right. Easy way to kind of just start us off there at the top. Janique with the Chilwell still cold. Obi-Wan Khan Obi with the VAR serves justice. You had Brett with the demise greatly exaggerated, talking about the end of Chelsea Football Club. Not dead yet. Def Duck's daddy back with the Cardiac Cats comeback. You had Classic 86, who was hanging out with the OC Blues, had the popped their bubble, did post a little video for us as well with a good friend, John Costello as well. Mr. Thurman with the turns have tabled, with the wonderful gift from The Office with how the turns table. And then Shane with We Are Bastards, which I felt like that mentality showed up this weekend. So it was good.
All right. I went with Mendy Fight Club. Many of you will know that I challenged essentially all of Chelsea Twitter yesterday and said, I should have clarified a little bit better. That's on me because I left it too open end. But I essentially was like, if anyone thinks that's Mendy's fault, fight me or I'll fight you. And I specifically meant the VAR debacle at the end of the match, not the entire game. I think there's a lot more to question about Mendy. He's not faultless, but the VAR situation, I was definitely quite upset with the hate he was getting. So Mendy Fight Club, quite appropriate. Dan, your 3-word match.
You're just going to leave it there? Okay, cool.
I didn't know who was getting next. Typically he would say, and Nick or Dan. I mean, I guess we just got used to the fact that
Brandon
you were here for a couple episodes.
We're not on speaking terms right now, so go ahead, Dan.
I went with the perfect McLaughlin testimonial.
Wow.
Because longtime individual head of recruiting, head of scouting, Scott McLaughlin, no longer with the club after a very long tenure of being a servant and helping run our recruiting and scouting department. And look, he was a lightning rod. He was a source of a lot of controversy at times. Whether you agree or disagree with all that, this match was absolutely the lightning rod moment of the Premier League this weekend. It was perfect.
It doesn't seem like you're for him.
It seems like you're at his funeral and you're like pissing on the flowers, Dan. That's kind of what it seems like right now. But Look, I went with predictable passing patterns. It's bullshit. It has to change.
I love a good U or circle pass map. All right. Well, right before we get into the match details, just want to say some thank yous to some people who are helping us out in different ways. Dan, who are the lovely people?
Well, Salvador, Griffin, and Ty all being wonderful supporters of us on Patreon, joining the Discord community, amongst other things. On Apple Podcasts, Big Dudell from the US and Prashant Bhatt from India, both leaving wonderful 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate that. And on Spotify, the March to 1,500 reviews is on the way. We're at a 4.9 on over 1,400. So let's keep it up and crush the big boys. There we go. So do that. Borrow a friend's phone, borrow a family member's phone, coworker's phone, someone you just met. Ask them to do it on your behalf as well. Meet a new person. Have fun.
All right. Well, here we go. Match details. It was West Ham this past Saturday, the 3rd of September, was in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge. In case you missed it, scoreline Chelsea 2, West Ham 1. Goals coming from Michail Antonio. Should he have been on the pitch? Questions will be asked.
Absolutely the fuck not.
62nd minute. And then Ben Chilwell, 76th minute, puts life back in the team for Kai Havertz. Absolutely smashes one home near post in the 88th minute. So we're going to kick it over to the official Chelsea FC app, the Fifth Stand app. They're going to run us through the highlights when we get back. It's all about the lineup and stats. Here we go. All right, Dan, lineup time. Another variation of the 3-5-2 allegedly. Who started today?
Well, it was Edouard Mendy between the sticks, Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, and Wesley Fofana. That's right, getting dropped into the starting 11. It was Mateo Kovacic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Conor Gallagher, Reece James, and Marc Cucurella, who all had a chance to start, and all but one ended up actually getting replaced out of the midfields, quote unquote. And then you had the forwards of Christian Pulisic and Raheem Sterling, Kepa Chalobah making himself fit again, which was great. Cesar Azpilicueta and Hakim Ziyech unused substitutes, and Amanda Broya. You had Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, Jorginho, and Ben Chilwell all coming in off the bench.
All right, some of the top level statistics here. Chelsea had 68% possession, thoroughly dominating. We had 8 shots, only 3 on target. West Ham firing 6 shots off, with 3 of them being on target. We had 16 tackles to their 14, 12 clearances to their 28. We had 10 corners to their 3, 1 offsides apiece, 4 cautions to their 2, questionable, and we conceded 6 fouls. That's right. So 2/3 of our fouls were cautions. They conceded 11 fouls. So XG, interesting here. West Ham 1.07, Chelsea with a 0.84, which means we thoroughly outperformed our XG up to that point. They fully expected West Ham to win this one on the day, but it didn't happen. So instead, we've got an MPET shithouse moment of the match, don't we, Nick?
Yeah, we talked about this beforehand, so I have to give credit to both of you on this one. But I think when you remember back to us trying to get the game over the line at the end, Kai Havertz, knocks the ball out of bounds. He's trying to move it to the corner, doesn't quite get there. And then, starts to cause a kerfuffle. And then I think gets pushed, and I forget by who, but then goes down dramatically as if he's in the theatre and gets yellow carded for it, but certainly made me laugh a little bit. And I appreciate the dark arts there, because all it did was kind of buy us time to get back in formation and get set. So that's a yellow card worth taking every day of the week.
Man down, man down.
I was worried about him. I was really worried about him.
Kai is full of shit. He also shushed the crowd pretty heavily after scoring. One random stat at Opta saying 1+1 against West Ham. Ben Chilwell became the 17th player to score and assist from the bench for Chelsea in the Premier League, and the first defender to do so. Game changer. I promise you we're going to talk a lot about Ben Chilwell, but it's going to be after the ad break. So thank you to the sponsors for financially supporting the show, and we'll be right back. If you're bored of the US Netflix, why not just take it for a spin in the UK? Using NordVPN and a click of a button, you can do just that. No need to travel to Japan for your favorite anime when NordVPN brings it right to you with over 5,000 plus server options. No show is out of your reach. Using my link, nordvpn.com/LondonIsBlue, you can receive a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 1 free month. We all love to binge, but look, privacy is a big deal too. NordVPN keeps your information encrypted so you never have to worry about your IP or location getting out.
They've also doubled down on keeping you safe with their new threat protection feature. Say goodbye to intrusive website ads and malware. Even if you download an infected file, threat protection kicks in and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Don't forget, there's literally no risk when you use our 30-day money-back guarantee. Give it a try, and if you like it, great. If you don't, they'll issue you a refund. You can pretend the entire situation never happened. Check out my link again. That's nordvpn.com/LondonIsBlue to get your subscription started today.
All right, that's right. The first thing we want to talk about in topic numero uno is Chile saves the Blues, but the dub didn't come easy. Benjamin's cameo made all the difference for the Blues yesterday, but should it have taken everything from him to produce this result? And the problem is, I mean, Nick, you got to see it. Is it right now, Chelsea, you don't really know where a goal is going to come from. Raheem has looked pretty good up there. Kai hasn't. Obviously scored today. We're overly reliant on our wing backs, but usually on your bingo cord, you don't have a 360 pirouetting header to yourself and then a nice little flick through the goalkeeper's legs inside the 6.
You don't have that on your bingo cord? Okay.
It's a bit out there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was begging yesterday for one of our attackers to relish taking someone on and beating them, because in a game where it is very clear that the modus operandi of the day is to not concede any goals. Like, it was obvious that Chelsea were out to concede no goals yesterday. The worst thing that could have come out of that, with the game plan that was established, was a 0-0 draw at home, which would have been terrible, by the way. None of our forwards did that. They didn't. None of them. Raheem tried it a couple of times, just with very little success. Pulisic didn't really try it. Broya didn't really try it, although I think he had more success physically. And then, I still don't know what Kai's being asked to do, even though he scored. So this was a risk being taken. That's the reason we scored, is a risk was taken. Chilwell made a run that is not typical of someone in his position to be that far upfield. He made a risk to jump for the ball. He somehow found it after he had spun around, Dan, and then did the only thing he could, which is hit it in the ground. Right? There was no way he was going to be able to lift that over the onrushing keeper. So he just hit it down and prayed that it didn't get blocked. It's a fantastic fucking goal, and it was exactly what we needed. And I'm so fucking happy for him in particular, because he's been through a lot over the last year and a half, going from a Champions League winner, starter, clean sheet in the final, to not being picked, not being played by England, getting injured, etc. But he did he took a risk. That's all it was.
It's what we saw when he was at his best. The overlapping runs that he would make to get into the box definitely shows a little bit more of that attacking thrust relative to Cucurella in the way that he advances forward. And I would say that the technical ability he had in that moment to self-assist in that was absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, it was. The amount of control, the amount of deftness of the touch was really, really fantastic. And you could see how much it meant to him. I couldn't find like a very good, because typically when you only play for 15 to 20 minutes in a match, you don't get the full stat sheet. So good friend, Gate 17 Mark Worrell, had his own little stat sheet that he made up for Ben Chilwell.
Love
and I think
this.
this sums it up. Ben Chilwell versus West Ham. Dribbles, 100%. Take-ons, 100%. Tackles, 100%. Might be sensing a theme or a pattern here. You're correct. Pass completion, 100%. Clean sheet, 100%. Goal, 100%. Assist, 100%. Dogs bollocks, 100%. Chelsea, 100% at Marco Stats.
Copywritten.
It's copywritten, my guy. Marco's out here to make that Opta Joe money, baby.
He's a publisher. He's got to protect his work.
That's right.
Obviously, Aubameyang had a nice little reaction to it as well, which was caught on camera. He did the nice little tapping on the chew can thing. I don't know, snapping the fingers.
It's too hot, is what it is. It's too hot.
Okay, all right.
Man's too hot.
Shows I grew up in a tobacco chewing society.
You sure did. So did I.
Again, an unlikeliest of heroes. Obviously, Cucurella getting the majority of minutes on the left side, looking pretty good. I think he was a little bit flat today. Maybe you could say a little bit last week too. But Chilwell has been getting minutes. And I think that's really important as well. There's clearly faith from Tuchel. And why shouldn't there be? When we were just ripping it up at the beginning of the last season, it was Wingbacks FC, which we're trying to get back to. So
it's also just really important to note Cucurella came into the team having not trained with the team all year and has started 4 straight matches because Ben Chilwell is not 100% fit. Tuchel admitted this in his post-match presser, right? He's still trying to get the feel back for the game or whatever he said. Like, sometimes Tuchel's press conferences annoy me, to be honest with you. I don't even know what that means. Like, he's training with the guys, but if he's not fit, him to come on in the last 20 minutes and provide the extra energy and enthusiasm that Cucurella was maybe lacking is massive. It's also exactly what Marcos Alonso did to him when he was playing his best, which is give him a target to shoot for. Like, the fact that he has a legitimate option who's pushing to start in the role that we all believe that he should be starting in when healthy and when fully functioning. Now he has to go earn it again. And I remember last year when Alonso started those first handful of games, and then he came back and he was a man on fire for about 2.5 months. He couldn't be stopped. He was absurd. There was nothing happening down the left with him and Rudiger. That's what we need to see. And I think the fact that they hugged after the match is just like, all right, competition on, let's go. Like, that's the best case scenario for Chelsea Football Club. That when we were winning stuff, throughout the years, it's because we had depth in those positions and they pushed each other to the ultimate level. And they need to again, because, we're struggling for a lot of reasons.
Well, a lot of that was flat movement off the ball. The fact that we threw new people up there, another kind of variation of the formation versus the last match we played. We are just consistently kind of making a lot of things difficult for ourselves. So let's see, we played essentially a 3-5-2. We were in a 4-2-2-2 last week, 4-4-2 against Leicester, 3-4-3, 3-4-3, 3-4-3 for majority of those variations. But again, a new formation with new personnel. West Ham, stuck in and created limited space for Pulisic and Sterling. But the fact of the matter is, the ability to create when we have possession. So if we get the ball and West Ham are in their defensive shape, how do we create goals? We can't. If we aren't hitting a team on the break right now, Dan, we are bereft of ideas. We are sitting there not taking risks. We don't have a passer who can unlock things, create something out of nothing. We don't have an Eden Hazard who, as Chelsea was happy to post, can dribble through 3-4 players inside that top of the 18 and score on his own. We got nothing right now.
Well, you still have N'Golo Kante out injured. You're playing a game of minutes with Michail Kovacic, of playing him hopefully not into the red or to the point where he breaks down, and now you're back to having a midfield crisis, even though Zakaria is coming to the side, and that's going to give us some level of depth that we didn't have prior to the end of the transfer window. It just felt like, to me, this was a carbon copy of Tuchel's first match for Chelsea when it was the 0-0 draw versus Wolves, and it was getting back to, I want us to not concede shots. I want to get away from giving up crap goals. I want to go back to being what we were when I came in, which is the super defensive, strong side, tough to break down. And that's going to mean that our impetus going forward is going to come on a little bit of luck. And I know Nick highlighted at this point that the thought that maybe it would have been terrible if we had gotten a draw, but we were definitely designed to get at minimum a draw and to luck into or to produce a little bit of magic to get a goal. And I think the thought would have been, you win 1-0, you get it done, you lock it down, and then you go home and you get ready for the first midweek game and a run of midweek games all the way until the World Cup starts, which is going to really test the physical limitations of this side.
Isn't that what you asked Tuchel to do too? a couple weeks ago or a couple episodes ago.
Look, I'm happy. I'm happy that
Knicks.
for
Yeah,
the
sorry.
majority of the time, you effectively were not giving them anything. I mean, they had like a 0.02 expected goal to like the 40th or 50th minute, or no, sorry, 60th minute. So yeah, I'm totally happy with that. I mean, I like the fact that we become a tough to break down side. It just means that as we embed all these new players, I mean, we have Aubameyang watching from the stands versus being able to be into the match. You're gonna have to be okay with a couple of the next matches not being the most sexy to watch.
Well, I mean, you're right. I did ask for that. The problem then becomes that you can't just overcorrect and not score. I mean, part of the way that we won the Champions League is that we were able to get the odd goal or a handful of goals. There are some matches where we went off and we had a great game offensively, but there seemed to be a clear passing movement associated with that team that is not currently in this team. I don't know why. I don't know where it went. I mean, arguably, you have Reece James at a higher level now than he was back then. I would argue maybe you don't have Chilwell at that level. Maybe your midfield isn't right. But there is just, if it doesn't come from an overlapping run near the touchline, it's not happening. There's nothing coming from the midfield. There was no, I mean, look at what Pulisic tried to do yesterday. He tried to come get the ball. Sterling tried to do this too. Tried to come get the ball in midfield to suck up defenders from West Ham. Zuma never moved. He just sat there because he knew that wasn't a real threat. And there was no risk. There was no pass behind. There was no pass over the top until we kind of got desperate at the end. And then the team broke out of their shell a little bit. And even then, you got a really, I don't want to call it lucky, but a fortunate goal. And then you got a classic, overlap and cross, into Kai. Like that was the methodology. So I was happy that they defended so astutely yesterday, except on set pieces, which is a continued problem that we will talk about. But boy, I mean, it was just incredibly difficult to watch. I mean, and if you're going to play like that against a team who can actually score goals, I think you're in trouble, because I don't know if you have the goals to come back in a game like that.
So the right side was heavily dominated by Fofana, Reece James. We'll have to see how that continues to blossom. Kukurea and Reece, literally, they spent most of the time in the West Ham half, kind of to Dan's point. Ruben was everywhere. Kovacic was the only one unlocking progressive passes. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 that were completed, and I think Ruben had 5. So that's much better than the last time I looked at these pass maps. There is some progress there. But, a lot of it just kind of ends up, I'm not even going to get into Jorginho's pass map, even though he only had 6 in, 10 minutes played. But I think that the ideas and the abilities of getting there, Broya had some great minutes again today. It's going to be really hard to not give him more minutes. Kai scoring makes things a little bit interesting too, because he was on a bit of a cold streak, but the general flow of the match, like I said, when we have possession and try to build up, is over at large not really there. And that's the thing that we have to figure out. We can't hit teams on the counter over and over and over, because they usually are waiting to hit us on the counter. So we've got to be able to unlock something. And we haven't seen all of our signings. There's still a couple left. Obviously, Aubameyang's gonna be out for a little bit. Zakaria, he's a holding mid. So, who does he really come in for in these models and these things? Maybe Connor, does he the one to lose out? So Kovacic and Ruben are in there. We'll have to see. But, one other thing is maybe discipline's an issue. I mean, we had a lot of cautions again today, and we've had a lot of card trouble early in the matches. Ruben in the 6th minute, he picked up his 9th minute. Kukurea's probably wasn't. Reece James was him shit-talking Antonio. I'm kind of okay with that one, but we've had some card issues, Nick, some discipline issues.
West Ham, 11 fouls conceded, two yellow cards.
No, that can't be right.
2 shoves.
Are you reading the right stats?
2 blatant pushes to players. Kukurea was pushed from behind, and obviously the shit post from Kai falling over after he got pushed. 2 blatant hands in the chest or back, and nothing.
Yep. So Chelsea, 6 fouls conceded. So I don't know if discipline's the operative word here, but 4 yellow cards out of 6. You're telling me that 80% of our fouls are yellow card worthy? Whatever. Like, it just doesn't add up. And like,
I'd say Rubens was, Cucurella's wasn't.
I don't think Rubens was. Like, if you watch that on replay, it's just a foul. And usually that early in the game, it's rare to get a card. Like, you have to be looking for it to get a card. He leaped over Ruben. There was actually very little contact. So, like, and whatever, give it as a card, but then consistently deliver verdicts across the pitch. Antonio should not have been on the field past the 51st minute. It was absolutely ridiculous. He got away with 4 blatant pushes on Thiago Silva before he got into the Reece James kerfuffle, which would have been a hell of a lot of fun to watch. It blows my fucking mind how inconsistent these referees are with what's a foul, what's not a foul. I don't understand it. It will bother me until the day that I die, because if you're telling me that the Ruben Loftus-Cheek one is a yellow card, and that Kai was a yellow card for simulation, which we all agree with, right? We agree that for the most part, like, yeah, we agree with the discipline on our side. You're telling me they can get away with persistent fouling, which happens against us all the fucking time, and not get any cards? I was tweeting about this from foul 1. Took him forever. And it was only because of the kerfuffle with Reece that he got one. It's bullshit. I'm sorry. I hate it.
All right. Let's move on to the second topic, which was talking about Mendy, but really it's a catalyst for our inability to defend right now. And it's mainly coming from the midfield. So I don't know where you guys want to start with this. My point is that I rewatched all the goals we conceded this morning just to kind of like reground myself and where everything kind of happened was. I didn't even bother to look at other saves and things like this, but I mean, Dan, on Twitter, everyone was like Mendy out. It was super aggressive. I know we've had some back and forth amongst our group as well, as far as like how far do you go with him. But from my homework and my research, it is the bigger problems in the team. It's not Mendy. It's a lot of other things that, in my opinion, are far bigger problems that we need to fix versus him. But again, he's not 100%. He's not glowing right now. He's not going to be up for the best goalkeeper of the year award, but he's far from our biggest problem right now.
Well, when you think about the fact that every one of the players on this team has had a level of inconsistency and done things that has potentially caused us or could have cost us, right? We've had players go out on red cards in multiple games that could have cost us. One did, one didn't. You had players who've given the ball away cheaply in possession. You've run the gamut. I think Mendy, to me, feels just like a little bit of an easy target when, I think a couple of games, right? Like the expected goals that we should score versus what we're like in the Leeds match, it was under a goal, 0.7 to 0.19. And the West Ham match was 0.8 to 0.8, right? Like it was basically level on odds. The Leicester City one, they should have worked their way back into that. The stats would say that one should have been a draw. The Tottenham one was a little hard done, and I don't think either of those goals should have stood, but here we are. And the Everton one was Jorginho getting a penalty, but in that game, we didn't really concede there. And so I think there's just been some wonky results that I think overrun his stats a little bit. And so I think, again, people are pointing out that Mendy is the problem when we've played with multiple defensive setups. We haven't had the strength in midfield that we typically have. When we lose N'Golo Kante out of this side, a healthy N'Golo Kante makes this side so much better, Nick. And I think it's about the macro issue and not, I think, the individual micro issue of players right now, I think, is hard to nail down when there has been a lot of change. There's 6 new players into this team at the moment, and trying to figure out like where it all works, where it is all going to come from, both in attack and defense, is not a foregone conclusion.
Brandon put together a really great analysis here, and I'm going to let him kind of do his thing with it. I am worried about him. I sat right behind the goal at Southampton, and he let a near post goal in that I think most goalkeepers save. He did the same the week before against Leicester. He's made a habit out of mistakes. He had a really inconsistent punch. Like he had a great punch. Seconds later, had a terrible punch. Yes, break that down to really poor set piece defending. Absolutely. And I know we'll get into that, and that'll be a theme of this year, apparently. Can't do that anymore. But I'm really worried about him. And I think my point to you, Brandon, is, okay, play him. Never play Kepa. Let's run that scenario. He's not confident. You can tell. I mean, and it's not just the fact that he had some bad luck, because there's clearly some bad luck. Like, I mean, you give Reece James 10 times to do that header back to him. He got the one that went astray, right? Like, it was a shitty position to be put in. But if you watch it again, he hesitated. He didn't come. There was no instinct there. And I think that's what I'm most worried about with him right now, is that when he was at his best, yes, we were not giving away anything. We were giving away 2-3 shots a game. And, you know, barring some like late game craziness here, we would have had very much the same against West Ham. But I don't see a confident keeper. I don't know how you coach that back into him. I don't know what the methodology is. I don't know if it's just purely the worst luck in the history of the world that we're looking at this going, I don't know, this isn't great. But I'm worried about him. And again, if the answer is that he starts every single match, okay, it's just not very good right now for me personally.
I think it's an easy scapegoat. And I think a lot of people just need to take a look at themselves and say, oh, it's easy to say the goalkeeper shit, we need a new goalkeeper, when there's a lot of things that go into a goalkeeper. And the thing that, again, yeah, am I going to speak with a little bit of confidence and expertise and say that most people out there have never played goalkeeper and don't really understand it? Yeah. Now, defenders will get it, though, because what happens is, let's say Mendy's best skill is shot stopping, which typically it has been. What you do is you have your line where you hold, and you deny crosses at all costs, because you're like, hey, if he's not that good at crossing, a la Kepa, you don't let that cross in. So then you give up shots, right? You say, hey, we're going to take away 2 out of the 3 options, and we're going to give them a shot from the 18 or deeper because Mendy is good at that. Well, the problem is, if you've got all these different defenders rotating in, someone slips, someone misses, as a goalkeeper, you're preparing yourself not for a cross, for the most part. You're setting up for what's going to happen after that. And a lot of these goals that have gone in are the second or the third chance as well, right? So you also have to remember, let's say Mendy is on the Southampton goal, right, where Lavia scored. The ball goes to the near post. He then has to step to said near post. It gets flicked on. He then has to try to move as fast as the ball to get to a decent position in a crowded box where Lavia can bend it into the far post. So Mendy's had to go about 6 yards in a matter of seconds and see through people. Whereas if he was ready for the first save, but he can't be ready for the second, you think back to, who was it, Leeds, where they smashed it off the post, and then he was set for the first shot, hits the post, ricochets across. He can't be set for the second shot. There's just a lot of these second and third chances that, as a goalkeeper, it's so hard to reset yourself, because the ball in this league moves so fast. Physically, you can only move laterally with some speed and still be set to move. It's damn near impossible.
So you're going to know more about goalkeeping than I will, flat out. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. And if he's going to have trouble near post this year, we're going to concede a shit ton of goals. And there's no other way to it. I mean,
he's been beaten near post once.
Twice.
I mean, I wouldn't count that Lavia goal as near post. It went to the back post, and he was near post on the corner kick.
He was right. He touched the post.
That's not near post, because he's on his right, moves to his left. That becomes a far.
He's right here.
I get what you're saying.
Touch the post. Okay.
I'm just, from that perspective, that's not near post. The Leicester City goal is the one he got beat near post. 4 goals out of our 9 have come from set pieces. 2 are from Mendy fuck ups, him getting it stuck under his feet. And then I don't even remember the other one that we considered. Leeds and potentially Leicester, I think. Yeah, I would call Leicester, like getting beat your near post. Like he really shouldn't have gotten beat near post, like make him go far post. So my thing is, a far bigger concern to me is our ability to defend crosses and set pieces. Because then we've also had balls from the wing against Leeds. They torched us. Our defense all drops in. There's no midfield help. And I have screen grabs of all this stuff. They're able to pull the ball back to the PK spot, and then it's a one-time finish multiple times. So to me, 6 of the 9 goals we've conceded have been from like wide areas or set pieces. 1 has actually been from build-up, and then the other 2 are Mendy's fuck-ups. So like
the other thing to keep in mind too is when you go back and look at the past couple of seasons, right? So his first season at Chelsea concedes 25 goals allowed, 2 off of penalties, 1 off of free kick, 4 off of corner kicks, and 1 own goal. Their last season, 31 goals allowed, 6 off of penalties, 0 off of free kicks, 1 off of a corner, and then 1 own goal. This is all Premier League, not total combination. We're at 9 goals allowed, 6 matches in, and 3 corner kicks. Like you're talking about the lack of Rudiger in his defense and what he did on set piece routines and in the box, and trying to add that magic back in here. Like very clearly, our corner routine on an attacking side and on the defensive side is really bad right now.
We moved to zonal marking defensively. How many years have we spent like saying that that's not a thing, and teams who do it are crazy? We're back to Frank Lampard era of defending set pieces. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason that you got Mendy, right, is because of his presence on crosses and set pieces, right? Because he is 5-6 inches taller than Kepa. And to me, much more confident coming out and laying the smackdown in a crowded area, right? That's part when he first started, we were like, oh my God, it's amazing. Someone can catch a cross. What a delight. I mean, I don't know about you, Brandon. It's I was thinking about this because he punched twice yesterday, right? In the same move. How many times have you remembered seeing him punch from corners?
I mean, I don't know, a handful.
I don't think it's very often, is my point. Like I wouldn't classify that as his number one move out of a set piece, right? So it felt a little strange to me, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, I wonder if it's just like survival. We just have to survive this move, and we got to get the ball out, and it's like, we know we're shit at this right now. So any pod that I can get on the ball is further away than it was 2 seconds ago, which tells me, of course, what we're talking about. The stats back it up and our eyes back it up, that we are very, very bad at picking up late runners into the box.
Okay. I'm following you. So again, in the past, we've been man-to-man. We've had consistent back lines. Mendy knew what Rudiger was going to do. He knew what Silva was going to do. He knew what Aspie was going to do. And on a man-to-man, he feels a lot better. I was looking, the Tottenham game, the Harry Kane goal, he's wide open. There's 3 people wide open at the top of our 6. Agreed. He also knows that if he goes out to a challenge for a cross, he doesn't know if there's any Chelsea defenders there. So yeah, I think you're right. He's way more nervous about coming for crosses because he doesn't have a fucking clue who's going to be in and around the box from his side. Usually Rudiger will protect him. Silva will protect him. Some of the crosses that we've let in have been completely uncontested, and he'd be on an island. He'd be going and getting smashed. So you're right. He's probably way more scrappy, just trying to get it away because he has no confidence anyone on his side is going to be there.
It's also a tactical adjustment by the opposition, though. This is the 4th game in a row, going back to Spurs, where there was the striker or a defender saddled up right next to him in the box, right? They're basically closing him in to stay on the line, right? Which, tactically is a sound thing. A lot of teams do this, whatever. It rarely happened to him before this year, though, because he is big enough to move man people out of the way, right? Mountains of people. He is a tree of a person. Like, he is very, very tall, 6'6", all of it. It's odd to me. Like, the whole thing is just very strange. And yes, I believe that there is more to do here than just Mendy. Clearly, there needs to be a whole reset on the set pieces thing. It's a disaster across the board. We can't hit across to save our life, and we certainly can't defend one. But it strikes of nerves. It strikes of uncertainty. It strikes of this team not understanding, with all these pieces that have come in and out, where anyone's supposed to be, who they're supposed to pick up, any of that stuff. That's a big, big problem for a team who defends with their lives in every other aspect and then gives away a cheap one yesterday for no reason whatsoever.
I think the underlying thing that I think we should keep an eye on, in addition to Mendy, in addition to the defense settling, can we get our midfielders healthy to get the best 11 that Chelsea have in this team on the pitch at the same time together? Because that's going to be both a function of physios and fitness and figuring out what is that combination for Tuchel. Can we get back to having great dead ball play, both on corners, offensively and defensively, and then on things like free kicks? Those to me are things where we haven't conceded a free kick yet, but boy, oh boy, I'm sure it's coming if we can't figure out what's going on with how we defend in the box. And the fact that we've conceded the 3 corner kicks or goals for corner kicks already, that just to me strikes of a little bit of disorganization, not knowing who's going to be where, not knowing everybody yet. And I think there's time to get it right. But the question would be is, like, how quickly does that take to happen, to your point, Nick? Because that to me is going to make Mendy's job hard every single time if the other 10 individuals on the pitch don't really know what to be doing.
Yeah, you say that about any player on the field, right? I mean, it's exactly why Kai had 0 goals until yesterday. He finally got one wee bit of service and actually converted it. The errors have been more pronounced, though, I would say, at the back than they have been at the front for me. So that's why I'm looking there, because this team, we were talking about right before we came on, right? They didn't concede a shot on target, and barely a shot. I mean, it was like old days where Mendy had nothing to do. He was having tea in the background for most of this match, rolling the ball out to watch them pass around a circle for most of the first half. Like, it was so easy because they didn't come out of their shell at all. But the minute that we got into a little bit of hot water, it went completely off the rails. And then the rest of the game was chaos. And it just speaks of a team that doesn't have a whole lot of confidence or know-how. And unfortunately, this league, the Champions League, all the cup competitions, the World Cup, gives you no time whatsoever to build that confidence. It's going to just have to be luck and earning it as a group. And that's kind of terrifying for where we are.
So last 2 things. One, today, like, shame on everybody who put Mendy on absolute blast for Reece James with a bonehead move. Also, Mendy went to the ball. Or, I'm sorry, Silva went to the ball, so Mendy stopped for him to clear it, which is why he hesitated and went for it. And for people saying he should have caught it, for fuck's sake, he's lunging at someone's feet. Like, he was trying to be a barrier and get in the way. Like, he played it to a T as best he could. But, like, so many things happened before that. Like, it's hilarious to at least squarely put blame on Mendy for a goal that, thank God, didn't happen.
And by the way, regardless of if they would re-referee it differently today than they fucking did yesterday, these fucking assholes, it was a foul. He kicked him in the chest. You could argue that it wasn't much of a foul or that he sold it or whatever. Goalkeepers are like quarterbacks. They're protected. Like, this is part of the gig. Everybody and their mother knows that if you go in slightly hard on a goalkeeper who comes out for a ball and they get crunched, guess which way the fucking foul's going? It's going the way of the goalkeeper every single time. It's just the way the world works. And yes, we were a little bit fortunate yesterday, for the first time all year. Thank you. But it's still, like, believe me, the next time that David De Gea goes out and gets slightly nudged and they give a foul, I don't want to see fucking anybody come at us and go, oh, we just did like, that's just the way the world works, guys. Sorry, it is.
And we're about to get to that. My last thing is, I would say, if you guys go back and look at the goals we've conceded, 5 for sure, Mendy had no chance, maybe 6. So realistically, like the midfield is where I'm going to continue to harp on their inability to get back, their consistent ability to give up the ball in terrible positions. Like if you watch these things back, Mendy is planted for most of them because he didn't have a chance. But more that we can cover, because Nick finally brought it up, is that the PGMOL and the VAR and the double standards that are out there, they actually have admitted to just screwing the pooch on this one. They have came out and said, after this weekend, you know what? We're going to actually take a look at some of the things here because we might not have done a good job, which is hilarious and long overdue. So obviously in this match, we've already talked about the fact of Antonio staying on the pitch after repeated fouls and aggressive behavior that, you know, other people picked up cautions for Chelsea. Reece James definitely kicked out at him.
Ruben was lucky to be on the pitch too. Like it cuts both ways. Ruben had a high elbow that could have been a second yellow. I'm fine saying that. This isn't, you know, as subjective as I am. It is what it is.
It's the same with the Reece James kicking out at Antonio. Like if Antonio decided that he was going to be a little bit more dark arts and drop to the ground, that could have been a red.
Sure.
100%.
Ruben at least didn't swing, just to clarify. He had his arms high, but he didn't swing it at all. But
he's Batman, though.
To your point,
you know that.
To your point. And then the Mendy versus Bowen debacle at the end. Both managers on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, as you'd expect. Tuchel, Miguel tweeting quotes from Tuchel on VAR saying, quote, I think there's a reason it went in our favor. My opinion is it's very clear. It's a foul. The first goal is very similar, end quote. And he doubled down and said, quote, I leave it to you to decide if it's the same as against Tottenham and say no more as I paid a lot of money after Tottenham, end quote.
My man knows the game now. Knows the game.
And those are the only 2 quotes, Dan. You had pages. There are pages of David Moyes quotes. He took every opportunity to talk. He went in the referees changing room. Declan Rice on social media and in the media also took their shots. Absolutely absolved and cleared of all issues because that's what you love from an accountable FA.
I love the fact that people grabbed the Sky Sports YouTube highlight images. So you think about on YouTube, there's usually an image with a initial clip as to why you're watching that one. And it talked about our controversial win. And then it talked about the win, the come from behind result that Spurs had, completely glossing over any controversy that exists here. It's the GIF, nothing to see here, nothing going on. I don't know, Nick. I mean, in general, you know, Moyes went after it. He didn't get any type of repercussion for it. I think this was the worst weekend since the last weekend where VAR, not necessarily VAR being the issue, but the humans operating VAR are ineffective at what they do. They're inconsistent in what they do. And it's maddening for players, for coaches, for supporters, because nobody knows if it's going to be adjudicated properly.
The only thing that David Moyes did or did not do that Tuchel did, I think, is call out a referee by name. But he basically said, fuck you to the rest of them.
That's the only thing he didn't do.
So I'm really having trouble. Like, whatever. I mean, I don't think you should find Declan for what he just said. He's a player. It's
club
fine.
Captain. You know, he should be doing that for his club 100%.
And by the way, like a bunch of people, including a lot of our friends, think the same thing, right? And that is what it is. Like they can have their opinion. That's fine. But to not, like you just saw this 3 weeks ago. This just happened right in your face. The same situation where a Premier League manager goes after the officials, VAR, and everyone in between, says a bunch of stuff, gets fined, gets suspended a match, and then you have the exact same situation, bar one small detail, which I cannot believe is the only thing that kept him out. And there's no fine, there's no suspension, there's no nothing. I mean, it's just a joke. And it goes back to my thing that I've said for years, right? You cannot have $1 billion league and 10-cent accountability. It is so stupid as a business to allow this to happen. I can't even imagine. It would be like if Nike had no lawyers whatsoever and just signed contracts with anyone and everyone who wanted to go out and just represent, it's just why? You could go get the best officials in the world. You could have the best VAR in the world or not, by the way, and you just refuse to do anything about it. And coming out after the fact, by the way, I don't need Mike Dean to write a column after he fucks up. I need him to say that shit right after the match to a reporter after he's been asked the question, why did you fuck that up? Where is the accountability? Writing a column and then not showing up to work midweek does nothing fucking for me. I'm sorry. And it does nothing for anyone else either.
What Moyes did say was, I'd question VAR today as much as the referee. Sounds like bringing the game into contempt to me. Doubles down, says, quote, that's someone that doesn't understand football and shouldn't be near it if they think that's enough to disallow, end quote. There's really no.
It feels like the game is in
sugarcoating
disrepute as
yeah.
was
and
framed
again,
that way.
New friend from Vegas, Tom Roddy, gave the verdict that the comments regarding VAR at Stamford Bridge, they reached a decision that they didn't meet the threshold for disciplinary action. I don't know if he's got loyalty points because he's been in the league so long or what, but again,
do you
amazing.
smell that? It's a sweet scent of justice just across the board. The fuck? I mean, it's so comical. And by the way, all it does is make everybody in the game question what they're doing on the field.
And it was widespread this weekend, especially.
Crystal Palace disallowed goal that was worse than ours.
Like, it was way worse than ours.
Yeah.
Everton, Liverpool,
yep.
Villa, like everybody is pissed this weekend.
Villa's was the worst of the bunch. Villa should have won that game.
Instead, they're going to get relegated.
Yeah, I mean, this is the point, though. I mean, the PGMOL can come out now and say, boy, we fucked that up. And by the way, the West Ham and Newcastle decisions aren't the only ones, boys. Newcastle. I think we all need to step up here. What are you going to do about it?
Well, they have an answer for you. So Dan has rightly said that humans are the issue, not the technology, because the humans don't understand how to apply the technology. So Martin Ziegler tweeted, new PGMOL is understood to have effectively accepted the VAR interventions to disallow West Ham and Newcastle goals were wrong. We'll cooperate with PL requests to review the two incidents and will take lessons from the outcome. Never mind. They're doing nothing.
I do enjoy the fact that there are people asking if they're going to go back and retroactively award points.
They can't.
Because it doesn't work that way. There's no methodology built in that. Even in the NFL, which there's a lot of things the NFL does not do right. And I think there are a lot of people who maybe are not aware of it. You know, we've got a very globally diverse audience listens to the show. The one thing that they have going for them is that they, over a decade of
Roger
learning,
Goodell. No,
wrong.
If you're talking about the financial earnings of the NFL, then yes, he would be praised for that.
I'm not Dan.
They figured out how to implement this technology and get their officials and technology to work together to the vast majority of the time use that to get the right outcome.
But VAR is used successfully in other leagues and competitions. This is a fucking England problem.
Look, I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying that the way it is used today is absolutely ridiculous for supporters, for players, for managers, for clubs, because they can't count week to week on how it's going to change based upon who they're playing, based upon, it feels like at times, and this may be right or wrong, it feels like the color of the shirt, and that is just things we've looked at and pointed out before with Anthony Taylor in the particular with Chelsea. But like, I don't know, Nick. I mean, I don't think there's any more we can say on this topic until it gets fixed. But I mean, we're going to continue to point out like the individual incidents when they happen. But it's a human issue. The PGML needs to fix it. They need more accountability and transparency. If they ever do it, I'll be shocked.
There are two major things I want to call out. The first is I unfortunately watched the City Villa game yesterday because I was just sick in bed, and I was just kind of like, might as well watch something. one really important thing stood out for me. Villa scored their equalizer, and Gerrard on the sideline celebrates, right? And then his coaches come out of the dugout, and he stops him. He said, "Hold on, you never felt like." He stopped him, and they all went back in the dugout together, because you don't know if a goal is a goal anymore. You might as well stop him. That has ripped the soul and everything out of the game, and it's such a bummer. I want VAR to work, because I believe in getting the call right and not just be convenient to award stuff, whatever. But man, that's ripped the soul out of the game. The second thing, though, and I think it's a really important note if you watch the US coverage this weekend, the NBC crew let these referees and PGMOL fucking have it. And I haven't heard them change their tone or be that aggressive against referees, because typically the media does not go in on referees. I mean, you saw every journalist that has ever been on our show go, "Oh, there couldn't possibly be a conspiracy in any sort of venue against any team, blah, 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 blah." No one's happy with this. It ruins the coverage. It ruins the experience for supporters. It ruins everything. They have to get this shit right. It is, there's too much money, too much prestige, too much everything on the line for them to continue to not understand how to use the technology and the rules that they have at their disposal.
All right. A lot to come from this, but you know what? A little bit of luck is fully deserved after the wrong end of it we've been on so many times so far this season. So it's a victory, which means we do have a Dan of the match poll. How'd it go?
Well, it's very infrequently that a substitute makes the Dan of the match poll. It's very infrequently that they win it, but Benjamin James Chilwell, 89% of the vote. Thiago Silva gets 7%. Havertz gets 2%. Reece James gets about 2% as well. At the end of the day, he ran away with it. I did consider only giving you different variations of Chilwell or Benjamin or James motherfucking Chilwell. But you know what? I give the people an actual poll. You're welcome.
But it's nice this way, because then you can see de facto that they run away with it versus different variations of it. I mean, 89% absolutely slammed this one home. Landslide. All right. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but some of the other results from the match week, it was match day 6. For those of you keeping track at home, Everton, Liverpool, super exciting. Merseyside derby, 0-0. Liverpool are fantasy brokesters, just offering nothing.
What's a brokester?
Just 0 points, sir. They're bringing nothing to the table.
It's a joker that gets you 0 points. They're a brokester.
They're not even funny. 2-1 Tottenham over Fulham. Nottingham Forest 2, Bournemouth 3. Bit of a relegation battle. Knockout fest.
When you refresh your whole team 2 times, maybe you're going to lose a little bit of the stability you had previously.
Hey, new manager bounce, baby. That's what Bournemouth did. Chelsea 2, West Ham 1, Brentford 5, Leeds United 2. Yes, that's right. The Leeds that beat us 3-0. Wolves 1, Southampton 0. Hey, Dan, you know what's a funny rumor about Wolves right now and their new striker?
Diego Costa returning to the Premier League to just cause havoc and misery on any team that is playing against him for 90 minutes.
Newcastle Palace 0-0. Villa City 1-1. City dropping more points. Leicester 5. I'm sorry, Brighton 5. Leicester City 2.
Boy, you want to talk about a performance today.
You want to talk about an open job vacancy for Brendan Rodgers.
I didn't think he'd be the second one gone, that's for sure.
McAllister for Brighton put on a fucking clinic today, by the way. He had a goal disallowed that was a screamer, like one of the best goals you ever see. And then hit a free kick at the end to just kind of win it back. An unbelievable performance by Brighton. They're going to be incredibly difficult to play against this year.
All right, then lastly, Man United 3, Arsenal 1. The Invincibles are no more. Sorry.
We got them.
Arsenal.
We got them.
5 games assholes. Unbeaten, and they thought
sometime in the next 3 seasons they'll be an Invincibles team.
Yeah, the good memes out today are Arteta's head in his hands, and it's mimicking when he was the FIFA
Game
quit
over.
Forfeit match or withdraw end season. So that was fun. But they are still at the top of the table with 15 points. Man City have actually dropped 4 points so far this season, so they're not perfect, but they're on 14 points. Tottenham on third on 14 points. Brighton in fourth on 13 points. Chelsea are in sixth on 10. But again, we kind of said VAR actually does its job. We're probably at 13 points at this point, maybe 14, which would take points away from Tottenham. We're actually in top four. So tight margins in this season. But if you drop more points, we would have been middle bottom of the table, and it would have been bad. So this was a huge result from a season standpoint. And then at the bottom of the table, 18th are West Ham. That's right. Salt in the wounds for them. They're on 4 points. Nottingham Forest in 19th on 4 points. And Leicester City in 20th with only a single point. It is looking bad for them. But that's the table.
Bournemouth have 7 points. They came back to beat Forest.
Sacked their manager for it.
Like an unbelievable result for them, by the way. Don't worry about Southampton. Their one good performance was against us. They're going to really struggle this year. I'm looking at that Brighton team, by the way. And I know that like typically your Leicester Cities or your Man Uniteds or your Arsenals have been top 4 challengers in the past. I don't think that Brighton team's going away, and I don't think that Brentford team is going away. I think the rest of it's pretty shapeshifty. I think those are the 2 out-of-the-box contenders who could stick around because they can score goals and they can defend. And they're going to be around. They're going to be annoying as fuck and hang around all year. I've just been so impressed by both of them. And shout out to Billy G getting his little debut at the end today.
Top 6 plus Brighton. That's your story at the top of the table. For as chaotic as we have not been as bad as Liverpool. Should be higher up if we don't lose ourselves in some crazy moments. Like the build of this team is here to go on and get a top 4 finish in the league comfortably.
They're just going to have to do it on the fly, though. I mean, there is no other training camp. There is no nothing now. Like it is, it's just going to be pretty dicey for a bit.
All right. Well, we have another match. It's actually going to be Champions League. We're going to be doing Dynamo Zagreb is the next one in. So a little bit of a change of pace.
Competition, Brandon, really quick?
Don't. Sure don't.
Interesting.
That's why they need all the help they can get to get knocked out all those competitions so they can actually focus on the league. But before we wrap it up, we do have a lone heat check. Our boy Ishan, it's his birthday today. So shout out to Ishan, who runs our socials and helps us with TikToks and everything. Wanted to give a quick update. So Dan, Callum Hudson-Odoi made a debut for Leverkusen.
Yeah, on the pitch for just a couple of minutes, and then boom, assist the equalizer. It was phenomenal. It wasn't enough to secure the point, but he did have a very positive start in that match and looked to be enjoying himself for his cameo.
Looks very, very happy. And then Tino Andrin is back in the headlines, Nick.
If you listen to the show a couple of weeks ago, you'll understand that he scored a couple of bangers for Huddersfield. He was named Huddersfield's Player of the Month for August. We know that he's been injured, that he's been kind of a weird fit for our first team, but he looks strong. He looks fit. I mean, I know Tweeds has waxed poetic about him in the past, but this is exactly the kind of like dynamic number 10 kind of option that I think would potentially fit the system. He doesn't have a problem chasing. He doesn't have a problem taking players on. Dan, he looks like he's starting to round into a bit of form. Let's just hope he stays injury free this year.
Yeah, the only other thing, and I know it's not like a lone heat check, but the last thing that we should talk about in this episode for just a moment is the fact the rumor is that the Reece James contract extension is rounding the corner here. And that's an exciting bit of action because the work is not done yet. The work for Todd Bowley and team is not done. Director of football, extending contracts, getting young players on the pathway to understand their future at Chelsea. There's a lot of work to do between now and the winter window off the pitch. And he's going to be just as busy, but getting Reece James locked up for the future, very pro that move.
Same with Mason Mount. I think that anyone who was worried in May about the Todd father and co coming in to own Chelsea Football Club is probably pretty relaxed right now. These guys are making smart moves. They had a baptism by fire this summer, right? Like it was a crazy ass summer. Didn't go all roses, certainly. But at the end of the day, we picked up an incredible amount of talent in the window, a lot of talent that's going to be here for a long time. We made a lot of moves getting rid of Deadwood. He signed players for the youth team, the women's team, for the first team. And he is making smart moves, him and the rest of the board, behind the scenes with some of our player personnel decisions that we'll talk about, giving Neil Bath a little bit more say-so. Like, Brandon, this whole ownership group has absolutely delivered on a promise that I didn't think we'd get for maybe 1 or 2 more windows. Like, this is an incredible turnaround from owning the club June 1, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of positive momentum behind the decisions, the way Bully is kind of handling the business. So shout out to him and to our loanees and to everyone else. So I hope you enjoyed it. A bit of a hot pod, even though we won. It was not easy. It was not pretty, but I tell you what, I had to break this one down. Had to bring it at you like we do every week. For those in the U.S., enjoy your holiday on Monday, Labor Day weekend. So shout out to all the laborers out there, and for all the people that are working hard, busting ass, take a day off, enjoy it. Hopefully this one doesn't get you too riled up after you remember what happened on Saturday, but we relived it for you. So anyways, more pods coming at you this week as always. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.